Today, I'd like to talk about 5 of the biggest and most common mistakes that I believe that new players make when they first start out playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'd just like to quickly preface this before we go any further and say that much of this and much of what I'm about to mention to you comes from my own self and mistakes that I personally made 5 years ago when I started playing. So hopefully you can take a little bit of advice and information from this video and help you if you are a new player. And even if you are an experienced player, you might perhaps learn something new and different from here. So again, this is very much a case of, if I was to start over again, what would I have done differently? First of all, with number 5 is research and just kind of general knowledge of the game. So I think that, 5 years ago perhaps, and developing into where we are at today, social media, the internet and stuff is very it's always growing, it's always getting bigger. But I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially is definitely a lot more out there than it was, a few years ago. And I think that's just the nature of the internet itself. So you should be able to find lots and lots of stuff out there. When I first started playing, I didn't really kind of do much research. I kind of just picked a deck that I thought kind of seemed cool. I was like, oh, okay, well, here's a deck. So I look up a profile and it's like, oh, best deck profile, you know who I'm talking about. And that's obviously a good thing, I'm not attacking Team Sam or anything, but there is a time and place for doing good research. You shouldn't just let your fundamentals of Yu-Gi-Oh! Come from just a basic deck profile or a YouTube video. But obviously those are important, and it is important that you get the basic part of where to begin in Yu-Gi-Oh! But then you should also try and develop it further from there. So for example, if you pick a certain archetype to start playing or whatever, you can just search that on Facebook and you'll find a Facebook group full of people playing that deck and giving advice on combos and different deck builds and different tech cards you can play and stuff. Now, generally, the quality isn't as high as it can be, shall we say, if you're looking at Facebook groups for trying to develop your deck, but it is a start and it is better than nothing, and you will find a few gems of information that are going to be quite valuable, whether it's a YouTube profile, a Facebook group, an internet forum like Pojo or whatever. It's still worth taking some kind of different perspective when you first start playing. So definitely do a bit of research, start learning about your deck. Try find new combos and stuff. Do look on YouTube. Do look at sort of basic deck profiles and try build upon that further. And number 4 is online testing. This is something I absolutely did not do anywhere near as much as I should have near the beginning. And playing online is an absolute invaluable tool. It is so important that you get online and you start playing Yu-Gi-Oh! To actually try and figure out how to play your deck correctly, and even to try and decide on a deck before you start playing. Because one thing that I did was, I remember very clearly, I wanted to play Chaos Dragons, and this was around about Dragon Ruler format. And basically I just looked at a few deck profiles and I just literally just bought the cards, card for card from eBay. And I didn't have any way of testing them beforehand to see, do I like, Queen Dragon Jin in my Chaos Dragon deck? Do I really want to play Purpley Thornley Dragon in a Dragon Ruler format? These are all kind of things that you should be really trying to do, is get online, get on YGO Pro, get on Dueling Book, test the cards first, find the deck profile from YouTube, find a very basic list, and go online and give it a shot and see how it is. Make sure you play the cards first before you invest any money into them. You're going to save yourself a lot of money. And even if you don't play in real life for a bit, play Yu-Gi-Oh! For a month or something online, because it could be that maybe you're not even going to keep playing this game after a week or two. You might get really bored. So, save yourself some money, get some experience online first, play against all kinds of different people. You might even make some friends. I made a bunch of friends when I first started playing way back in the beginning. Just playing decks that I found cool, and I would find decks that they played interesting, and I would message them and ask oh, your deck looks really cool, what's your list and stuff. Don't be shy to branch out and find people online who are kind of in similar positions to you or who can help you. And number 3 is the value of your cards. I think this is really important if you're going to be playing, and generally when you do start playing, you're going to be fairly casual to begin with, so you're not going to have all that money and you're not going to have all that time to invest in just sort of this little part-time hobby. So it's very important that you do find out the value of your cards, because if you are going to start building up a little bit of a collection or getting a deck together and stuff, it is important that you understand what your cards are worth and what it is you're trying to trade for. And trading in general is something very important for when you first start out, because like I said, if you're not willing to invest that much money or time and resources into Yu-Gi-Oh, then it is important that you have a very strong grasp of what you do have available to you. So the cards that you currently own and the cards that you do currently play with, try and just go on eBay, get a rough idea of what your cards are worth, get a rough idea of what the cards that you're looking for are worth, and try figure out, the price differences and stuff when you're trading at locals. It's very, very common that, new players kind of not really get scammed, but, shall we say, I've seen 2 Dantes get traded for a Castel back when they were worth $50 a piece, okay? Try and learn what your cards are worth before you start trading into, different decks and stuff like that. It is really, really important. Especially if you're only trying to invest casually. And this goes back to the previous point as well when I was talking about playing online. Before you do invest and before you do actually pick up a deck or whatever, try and test it online first, because it could be that you're playing this semi-expensive card that is main decked in your deck, and then it turns out, oh, I actually don't like it. And you could have spent maybe $15 on a playset or something. That's not really what you want to do, right? You want to make sure that if you are going to play certain cards, then you've tested them online first, and then you've had a good idea of whether or not you want to run them. Otherwise, you're just wasting money and resources that way. The next point is misplaying. Now, obviously, this is kind of obvious. We all misplay, we all make mistakes. But what I found was that when I was a new player, at least, and obviously it's going to be different from person to person, I didn't do a very good job at reflecting on my duels. It is important that you are very reflective of all of your duels and stuff when you are trying to get better. Try and ask yourself, what could you have done differently? How could you have played this differently? And make sure that you always ask your opponent at the end of a duel, what do you think I could have done better? Is there anything I could have changed? Etc. etc. I know sometimes you can be a little bit shy and stuff if you're new and you don't really know the people around you and stuff, but it will give you definitely a more wider perspective and grasp of the game if you do ask people, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? And be more reflective in your plays. Ask yourself, how could I have won that duel? Because for me personally, when I first started playing, I just assumed, oh, it's a card game. Sometimes it's pretty luck based, and that's kind of the impression that I had when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I just assumed, well, he had the cards. He just simply had a better hand. That's just how card games work. But it's not like that at all. You can always change the outcome of a duel. So try avoid blaming luck as much as you can. Try and figure out, what could I have done differently, and ask your opponent, what should I have done better. And before getting to number 1, I'd just like to quickly shout out to my Patreon and all the patrons who are contributing to the channel. If you do enjoy my content and you do want to help out, then please consider joining the Patreon and perhaps maybe subscribing on Twitch, because I do stream regularly, and you can join in on that. Or at the very least, please click the bell icon and make sure that you can get my videos notified to you directly, because I'm sure you know how YouTube is a bit annoying sometimes. And for the most important tip that I would give, and one of the biggest mistakes that I did personally when I first started playing, was I didn't really make enough Yu-Gi-Oh friends when I first started playing. I really didn't make that much of an effort to branch out and socialize more with people at my locals and try and make connections, because really the people at your locals, and especially the better players at your locals, they're the ones who are going to be helping you, and they're the people that you're going to be traveling to events with in the future potentially as well, if you do want to start going to major events like YCSs and stuff. So it is important that you develop mutual relationships with people at your locals and try and get to know other people. Try become close with the better players there, and you'll find that someone will be very willing to give you advice regularly, and they'll be willing to teach you and tell you what could you have done better at all of your duels. They'll be willing to maybe even lend you cards to test with. There's so many benefits to just having more friends, and it's something I really didn't do enough of when I first started playing. It took quite a while before I slowly started developing and getting more friends and stuff. I think it was a solid 6 months before I really had a real circle of friends that I would play with regularly and that I would meet up with and just duel. It's something that you should try and start doing immediately, because like I said, these are people that you'll be going to events with, these are people that you'll be testing with. So try and make the effort to meet new people at your locals, get to become friends with them, not just on a Yu-Gi-Oh level, but socially as well. So that's my list for today. If you feel like there's any other tips or mistakes that you've done, anything that you would advise new people with, then please do leave a comment down below. Make sure you click the bell icon to be notified of all of my new videos and content. Subscribe, share, etc. Check out my Twitch and follow me on Twitter, and see you next time.